Hello and welcome to Learn to Drive the Easy Way. I'm approved driving instructor Michael Gambin, and I'm going to show you how to drive manual, automatic and cars fitted with disability controls in the easiest way possible. So sit back, relax and enjoy. And remember to hit the subscribe button underneath to see all of our videos. So we're now going to talk about pedestrian crossings. And the first one we're going to talk about is an uncontrolled pedestrian crossing called a zebra. We can tell it's a zebra crossing, number one, because of the sign on the approach, which will look like this. Also, you'll have black and white stripes on the floor and black and white poles with an orange ball on the top, like in this picture. Now, the black and white poles, for those of you which is into your trivia, is called Belisha beacons, and that's named after Leslie Hoare Belisha, which was the transport minister that invented them. Now, if it's a single zebra, there won't be an island in the middle. So if there is somebody approaching that zebra from either the left or the right hand side, slow it down, potentially stop if you don't know what they're doing, and allow them to cross. Remember, it's effectively like a crossroads where you have a give-way line and you have to wait for the major road, which is the pedestrians. Now, you have to wait for them to cross completely before you then commit to going. And if you do have to stop, always use your handbrake. The reason for that is because if someone crashes into the back of you, you're less likely to then go into the pedestrian, so you're making it safer. If it's a double zebra crossing, you'll then have an island in the middle with another Belisha beacon most of the time, not always, but if there's an island in the middle, then it's a double zebra crossing, and you treat it as two separate zebras. So if someone is crossing from the left hand side, once they get to the middle island you can go, whereas if they're coming from the right hand side you can go until they get near the middle island, and at that point you want to be stopping and allowing them to cross completely, like in these videos here. So, double pedestrian crossing, we can see the island in the centre again, black and white poles, so it's a zebra. Now we can see this lady's coming from the left, so I'm going to slow it down and allow her to cross. It's obvious that they're going to want to cross at the zebra crossing because she was walking diagonally towards it. So don't be in a rush, don't try to beat them, just slow it down, allow them to cross. And again, things like that will show off to the examiner because you're planning ahead. You can see the scenario develop. So we can see the zebra crossing has these people on the left. So we're going to wait until they touch the middle of the pavement, before we can then commit. As we go into this bend, just checking our left mirror, making sure it's safe before we go. Again, scanning the zebra, no one here. Then we've got another zebra. You can see there's two pedestrians that's crossed. Now they've got to the middle island, we can go. We don't need to wait for them to get all the way across to the other side. Again, up ahead, we can see a zebra crossing. So you can see we want to look really far away, because from now I'm already scanning. I can see the lady on the right, I can see the gentleman that's crossing on the right hand side as well. So I'm just going to slow it down. I'm going to give those two a chance to cross. I'm going to keep an eye on the lady on the left. She might cross, as you can see she is going to. So again, I'm just going to keep it slow. She's now decided to walk past. I'm going to keep my eye on the lady on the right. She's walking past, so then I'll put my foot back on the gas again. Remember, do not commit until you're 100%. So even if you were to stop there and she just walked past, like what happened, that's fine. You wouldn't get penalised on your test. You're doing the safe thing. Treat it as a give-way line, a crossroads. You know, the pedestrians are the ones that have the priority, so you have to give them that right of way. So here we're driving through a hospital area, and you'll see that you've got the black and white stripes on the floor. Now, there isn't the Belisha beacons on the side, but I would still treat this as a zebra crossing. So if you can see that there is someone near it, just hold back, allow them to cross, and then proceed to go after. The next type of pedestrian crossing that we're going to talk about is the controlled crossings. And the first one is a pelican, the second one will be a puffin, and the third one will be a toucan crossing. Now, they're all named after birds, which a lot of you will probably think, yeah, don't know why though. They're actually acronyms. So the pelican stands for pedestrian, light, controlled. Puffin, pedestrian, user, friendly, intelligent. and Toucan is for two can use it. So the Pelican Crossing is the older style pedestrian crossing, and you'll have a flashing amber traffic light, like in this video here. So if you have the flashing amber, you need to allow that pedestrian to cross your path of the road before you can then commit. If there is no pedestrians crossing, you can then go. You don't need to wait for the green light. The second one is the Puffin Crossing. Now the Puffin Crossing, as we said before, pedestrian, user friendly, intelligent, and it's the intelligent part which makes the difference. So they will either have a sensor on the top of the traffic light, like in this picture here, or they'll have a countdown timer for the pedestrians, like in this picture. Now those sensors are microwave and they can sense whether there is someone crossing. So if it can see that there is some movement on the pedestrian crossing, it will not allow your traffic light to go back to green until it can see that there's no more movement. If it's a countdown timer, it should give any pedestrian ample time to get past. But obviously, if it does go to green and there is an elderly person, for instance, or somebody with a disability which is taking it a little bit longer for them to cross, obviously wait for them to get across before you can then commit. If somebody starts beeping you, don't worry about it. You're not doing anything wrong and the examiner will not penalise you either. So you can see with this traffic light, it's going to have a standard traffic light sequence of red and amber together, and then the green. And the reason for that is because it's a Puffin Crossing, pedestrian, user friendly, intelligent. The next one we're going to talk about is the Toucan Crossing. Two can use it. Pedestrians and cyclists can cross at one of these. It's one of two crossings where a cyclist is allowed to ride across rather than having to get off and then walking across, or dismounting as it's called. The traffic light for these will be a normal traffic light sequence of red and amber together with a green. Same as the Puffin. Now, there are two other types of pedestrian crossing which you would not have read up about on your theory test. The first one is called a Pegasus or a Trojan. So for those of you which is into your Greek mythology, you know that they're to do with horses or equestrians. So they're a crossing where an equestrian or a horse rider is able to cross the road. There's not many of these. In London, there's only three that I know of. You've got Hyde Park, Regent's Park, and in Wimbledon. They are very expensive. To put it into context, a zebra crossing will normally cost around £20,000. A Puffin or a Toucan crossing can cost up to about £70,000. A Pegasus crossing is around £500,000. So you can see they don't get used very often, but if you do drive in the countryside, you will see a few more of those scattered around. It's a normal traffic light sequence, so you do what the traffic lights tell you. The other type of pedestrian crossing that you may come up against is a fairly new one, which is called a tiger. Now, tiger crossing looks exactly the same as a zebra crossing, but this is the other type of crossing where a cyclist can ride across. So it will have a separate cycle lane for the cyclist to be able to get across. So you treat it exactly the same as a normal zebra. If somebody's either walking near it or riding near it, slow it right the way down and allow them to cross. You will also have a cycle sign on the approach to that zebra crossing rather than just the normal zebra crossing sign as we showed you before. The next type of crossing that we're going to talk about is an unofficial pedestrian crossing called a safe haven or a traffic island. You will sometimes have an island in the middle of the road. Sometimes you'll have a grey and white pole as well with a white ball on the top, like in this picture here. But sometimes it will just be dips in the curb edge. Now, it is your priority here as a driver to continue to go unless, and this is a very specific unless, the person is blind without a guide dog. Now, how do we know if somebody is blind or deaf-blind? First thing, they'll have a cane. Now, if they're blind, they'll have a white cane, and if they're deaf-blind, they'll have a white and red cane. And they will sometimes also have a guide dog, which will have a yellow fluorescent strapping to the harness or a jacket itself. Now, if a blind person wants to cross the road, what they'll do is they'll stick their cane up diagonally, like in this picture here, to show us drivers that they want to cross. Now, if they're doing that at a safe haven or a traffic island, slow it down, come to a stop, and just be patient and allow them to cross. They may take a bit longer than they used to, and the reason for that is because now there's more electric cars or hybrid cars. They can't hear them, so they may be there for about 20 or even 30 seconds before they commit to crossing. But if they have a guide dog, the guide dog knows that it's not an official pedestrian crossing. So if there's a vehicle on the approach, even if you've stopped, the dog will not allow the owner to cross, and the owner will normally actually wave you to continue to drive. If it's an official pedestrian crossing, the dog knows that and it will allow the owner to cross. So for the owner not to allow the dog to get into bad habits, that's why they wave you on. Remember, if there is an elderly person or somebody that looks like they want to cross and sort of they're in a bit of a risk category, be kind and generous. The examiner won't be able to penalise you unless you're hitting the brakes last second or you're not taking into consideration the person behind you. So that's the type of things that you need to be thinking about when it comes to pedestrian crossings. But there are some rules as well that we have to go by, which is outside the things that we've already spoken about. Now, the first one is the zigzags. The zigzags you are not allowed to park on, and you're not allowed to overtake unless you're overtaking a cyclist. If you do one of those things, it's 3 points on your license and a fine. Second thing is the walkway. You must keep the walkway clear. It states so in the highway code. If you do block the pedestrian crossing, you'll fail your test automatically. So always wait until you can see the space on the other side before you commit. The third thing we've already spoken about is the handbrake usage. Once you've stopped the car, it's always advisable to secure the car, so if somebody does go into the back of you, you don't go into those pedestrians. And the fourth thing, is to always acknowledge your rear view. Okay, it's an active or a potential hazard, so see what's going on behind you to warrant how much you need to brake. I hope that's helped, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.